Okay, councillors, we are looking at item number 13. Oh, Letitia's here, so no. Yeah, Letitia's here. So. Item 9 and item 10, folks.
Be on item 9, did you say?
9.
Yeah, I'll move it, Mr. Chair. Straightforward.
Second it.
Yeah, well, we have a quorum. We've got to move in a seconder. Right, we will resume. Letitia, do you have anything to add to the report? There is a mover and a seconder.
21st. No, nothing further to add to the report, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, can I just make a suggestion, not for you but for others, is that when Letitia has these non-controversial divestment disposal recommendation reports, that perhaps she gets put up the front of, this could have been solved at 9:31, at the front of the program, when there's clearly no local councillor issue or controversy that needs to be debated at length. Just to keep in mind.
Yeah, you can, as you said in the agenda.
Through you,
Guidance.
Mr. Chair, that was the intention, Councillor Brewer, but due to the level of public input and also local board input, we moved the Sky Path report. So we do apologise, Letitia, and thank you for your patience. Thank you.
We have a mover and a seconder. No questions, no queries. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. We move to item number 10, and I'm happy to move that
Yeah,
item.
second.
Seconded by Councillor Cooper. Any questions on?
Straightforward.
Fran Lynn, all those, we'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you for...
It's a good report, Mr. Chair. She does a really good report.
That was a good day's work, Letitia.
Yeah. Thank you,
It
Mr.
does. Thank
Chair.
you, Letitia. Noel, George.
I won't vote for this.
Councillors, also an extremely important topic. This is extremely our number one heritage project in Auckland at the moment.
Thank you, Chair. Just to briefly outline the report, this committee resolved to support in principle up to a $15 million contribution towards the restoration of St James. The critical condition of council support was that it was part of a wider funding package involving the council, central government, the owner and private philanthropic funders. To date, it has not been possible to put that package together. The sticking point has been the ownership structure. The owner, who is contributing half the restoration costs, while happy to lease the building to a charitable trust, wishes to retain ownership of the land. Other potential funders at this stage, the philanthropic funders and government, require full public ownership. At the moment, the owner is progressing the adjoining apartment development and complying with the resource consent conditions in regards to St James. However, without additional funding, little more progress will be made. Hence, the council contribution is critical. So in order to progress this restoration, we are proposing that through a secured loan, council contributes its funding. That loan would be structured to ensure the achievement of key physical milestones and would be conditional on matched funding from the owner. The outcome of that would be that the building, from a heritage perspective, is secured and it would be capable of operating as a venue. It will not, however, achieve the fully operating theatre venue that we initially anticipated. That matter would be for another day and dependent on other funding from other agencies. Happy to answer any questions, Chair, and I do have George here to assist. George is basically full-time over at the St James, overseeing the work that is going on basically on the apartment complex and on the theatre to ensure that we get the outcomes we want.
Noel, could we just clarify, it's my understanding that we always understood that it may be that we go to this sort of stage and we then park the building up or run the building as not a fully retrofitted building, but just something that is actually safe for a certain type of entertainment, etc., etc.
That's correct, Chair. We were quite ambitious when we set out, trying to get full funding in such a short space of time. That hasn't occurred. Bearing in mind that when this first came to the council, we looked at purchasing it and we were potentially going to mothball it. So this takes it a step further than what we probably would have got, but not the end result that we require.
Just one more question to follow up. So how would it operate? If we can't get agreement on the trust at this stage, how would it be operated and who would operate it for whatever rock concerts, whatever?
Well, the owner will operate it.
Owner would operate it.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Look, can I just want to acknowledge the lads. Continuing a good to see you've dusted all the dust off, George, and you got yourself over here. Thanks very much for coming. Look, so I've had discussions with both Prime Minister and members of government, but not the Minister of Arts. I've left that up to you guys.
Yep.
All of the indications have been yep, we're in. But the yep, we're in hasn't actually at this point, despite best efforts, translated to actual dollars. Now, there's been mention, the government is well renowned for the timing of its funding announcements. And of course, we are coming into election year, and the types of funding announcements for key projects are typically made around November and December and January. As we recall, CRL got funded in January. And so I'm not saying that that's exactly what's going to happen in this instance, but it would not surprise me if the government's contribution, given the yips feedback that I've had, and I'm saying this in a public meeting, so I'm confident in reiterating it here, that they would translate at some point into an actual commitment. I've had the benefit of being able to keep very close watch on this project. The chairperson has said that it is our #1 heritage project, and I absolutely believe that. If you asked any Aucklanders, they would say this is the project that needs to get done and is getting done. It's not getting done in the way that we expected it to get done, because it's a refit rebore that requires 3 or 4 of people to make their commitments. At this point, it's 3/4 of the way to the target, and that includes our funding. So I think that it's one of those situations, and the learnings from the last 6 years for me is get things going, start it, and then just keep the pressure on until the thing is done. And with the St James, you and I, we around this chamber, well, most of us anyhow, have started this project, have wound George up and Noel and got them going, with young Bealby in the back, so we have got a great team sitting there, our A team, doing the most important preservation work in the city at this time. And so I have absolutely no doubt that all Aucklanders, if they were watching this thing now, would be saying, yeah, absolutely, keep the hammer down. And I would be pleading with them to encourage their governmental MPs and opposition MPs at this time to actually make the commitment that they should make. The government has very generously over that period of time, and prior governments before them, gone the third way. Well, in this instance, it's a half, quarter. And we need them to just come through with their quarter. But in the meantime, rather than sit here and wait for that and then just unemploy George, we need to keep the hammer down, keep that guy well focused in there, and keep the work getting done on that great building. So it's not a perfect story at this time, councillors. It's more of a journey than a sprint with the St James. But I ask you to enable our team to continue that journey today so that we're able to continue to quietly pressurise the government and one or two other trusts to get their bid in so that we can then final it and working beside the Lee family who are putting up a very, very serious amount of money to do this and beside what looks like to be a very successful apartment project. So George and Noel, doing good work, keep it up, and I trust and hope that my colleagues will continue to support this onward.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Lee.
This is a question, Mr Chairman. I have personally supported this approach in the past because it enables a new kind of model for the council to be actively involved with private owners in protecting and conserving heritage buildings. But the two questions I have are, what is the sticking point? Why is the owner who presumably supported this initiative in the first place found that this approach is unacceptable? What's the problem?
The sticking point is not from the owner's perspective, it's from the other funders who want full public ownership, and the owner, who is contributing upwards of 30 million, wants to retain some ownership. So there's still a bit of negotiation to go through, and in the time periods we've been working towards, we can't get that resolved in time.
Okay. So it's the other contributors.
It's the other contributors. It's not the owner and it's not council.
Can I also ask, in terms of conditions relating to public access and theatre availability, to be frank, I'm not across the detail of what that really means, but in terms of repayment, if those conditions are complied with, then the loan is essentially forgiven. Is that how it works?
That's correct. Those conditions of public access, we will work into the loan agreement. The owner has already indicated that, well, what does council want, and then we'll write it in. So I don't envisage there being an issue around those sorts of matters.
Can those conditions be legally entrenched in perpetuity, because ownership will change over time?
Well, that's why this council hires very good lawyers, and we'll make sure that that's how that pans out.
Thank you.
Councillor Penrose and then Councillor Cashman.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Chair, and I just want to acknowledge the Mayor on his statement in regards to this one. But over time, in the last 5.5 years, I've supported many projects across this region, and some of them quite substantive projects. But I'm a bit nervous on this one, and it's a little bit even greyer than last time when you brought it to the table, and it was only Councillor Brewer and myself that didn't support it. And I'm a little bit dubious still at this stage. So sadly, I'm going to have to say I can't support it.
Councillor Cashman.
Yes, thanks. And I might be seeking a little clarification about what Councillor Lee asked. So once we've done stage one of the works and you've done the earthquake strengthening and the prep works for potentially stage two, and even at stage two, the owner's not willing to transfer the land upon which the theatre sits to the trust.
That's right.
That seems like a major sticking point for the trust then to be able to access philanthropic or other funds. So potentially the problem's not going to go away, it's just going to stay there. We're just going to be faced with a further bill coming forward. What's the absolute longer term prognosis here?
So it's with the other funding agencies who their funds require public ownership. In the past, and I think that's what the Mayor was alluding to, this has been addressed through a one-off government grant that is outside their funding arrangements. Now that's the solution for this building going forward, but I can't sit here and say that's on the table at this stage. I guess so what we've done is we've tried to arrange this so that the council's contribution is secured and that it is matched by the owner's funds, and that we get what we want, i.e. we get a secured heritage building that is capable of operating at a slightly better state than what it was before it went into mothballing.